If you're a single woman over 40 looking for Mr. Right and you're ready to learn practical dating strategies that don't waste your precious time, you're in the right place. In this episode, as an intuitive dating coach, I'm sharing part 3 of the best dating advice for women over 40 so you can avoid the pitfalls. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 9. This is part 3 of my 3-part series, Best Dating Advice for Women Over 40. And today we're going to talk about a really, really important topic, and that's all our fears, our anxieties, and our habits that are holding you back from the love you deserve and desire. So let's break it down. First off, why is it important to do this? We don't really always want to be looking at our fears, and it can be challenging to face them because it is kind of scary. So the reason it's so important to do this, as you can probably guess, is our last episode we were talking about taking aligned action, and that's really important, and you need to put yourself out there to find Mr. Right. That's a given. But you also at the same time need to be examining the ways you're kind of driving around with the emergency brake on, if you know what I mean. What can you discover about yourself that propels you towards the love of your life instead of running in the opposite direction like I did for so many years? So in order to do this, you need to be willing to dive into self-awareness. Self-awareness is crucial so you can let go of those habits that are holding you back. Self-awareness gives you the clarity and the ability to discover and release your fears that get in your way. So that's kind of a little bit of a background of why I think this is so important. And as a dating coach over the years, I've really had to help women unravel this part. It's just that hidden kind of the puppet strings that are playing when you don't really want to be doing what you're doing. And you're like, why am I doing this? Well, most likely it's because of these dating anxieties, fears, and the habits that I'm going to talk about. The 3 most common habits that I see that women are kind of doing just unconsciously that is really holding them back. First, let's look at the dating anxiety and fears and kind of break it down. I want you to just sort of be open to this process. It's kind of like just a deep dive. And while you're listening, you can just kind of say, which ones feel like me or which ones resonate with me the most? And just take note of them. You don't have to do anything. Self-awareness in itself is a huge gift. And so even just knowing, wow, that's really my biggest fear, or these are the things that are influencing me the most. And just knowing that is power, 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 and being really empowered in dating after 40. So just listen to this list of fears that I have and fears and anxiety themes that I've gathered over the years. And of course, I put myself in the same boat. I've had many fears and anxieties over love, over dating. And I never talk about or teach anything that I haven't personally experienced or just really understand what it feels like and what it is to experience them. So we've got the big one, fear of intimacy. And this one was really big for me. Fear of revealing your true self, or another way to put it, truly being seen. This was also a huge fear for me. And if you look at the opposite of that, many women I've talked to have said they only want to be truly seen and heard. And that is like their ultimate, way they would describe being in a loving, beautiful relationship with Mr. Right is to be truly seen and heard. And we can also have both things going on at the same time. Like we can want that so badly. I just want to be seen for who I am. And also have a fear of being seen. So both can be true. And if you're saying, well, that sounds like me, then you're in the right place. This is totally fine to have both sides of the same coin. Fear of rejection, of course, that's a really big one. Fear of recreating your past. So if you're like me and you had many toxic kind of relationships over the years, there can be a big fear of like, what if I don't see this coming and I just, pick the same guy in a different body and have the same kind of relationship over and over again. And I actually did experience that for many, many years until I broke that cycle. And so you may have that fear, or this might even be stopping you from wanting to jump into the dating pool because you're like, I just don't know if I can stop myself or be aware of, oh, this is going to be the same thing. I'm going to recreate my past. So that's a big one. Another sort of maybe lesser known one is the fear of being trapped. It's kind of like a close second to the one I was just talking about, because maybe you feel it's, something around being afraid of commitment or afraid of being trapped in a relationship that turns out to be a nightmare, or that you don't know how to get yourself out of it because maybe it's just a terrible relationship, or you don't want to hurt the other person, all of these things. So you can actually anticipate a fear of being trapped and feel like, oh, if I get into the dating pool, I'm going to be, finding myself in this situation that I can't get out of. And of course, we've got the age-old favorite, the fear of being hurt, the fear of having your heart broken. Either, who wants to have their heart broken? Or maybe, again, you've had it happen so many times that you're like just really, really afraid of having your heart broken again. Let's look at some of the thoughts that can be swirling around when you have these fears and kind of go into a deeper layer here. So some of the thoughts you might be having around these fears is like, is it too late for me? Am I too old, in other words? Or too something, too overweight, too thin, too much, too overly invested in relationships, too thirsty, as you might say. What if I'm not good enough for love? That's a whole other ball of wax there, like just having all of those kind of thoughts. What if I'm not lovable, not good enough, all of those type of thoughts. Or the other one that I've heard quite a lot is, what if the right person for me just doesn't exist? What if he's not even out there? And this can come up with, if you've been dating for quite a while, or, if you're listening to this, you're in the over 40 category, and you've just had a lot of experiences, and that fear and doubt starts creeping in. Like, what if he just doesn't exist? Or there's no one out there who's going to love me for who I am? These are some really fearful thoughts that is very common. And the one that, nobody's surprised at this one, that we might not even really acknowledge that we're having, but what if I end up alone? What if I just live my life and I'm just alone right until I pass away and I don't find anyone? That can be a really devastating and fearful thought. Now I'm going to give you an exercise that I've worked with women around on this, and I've also done for myself, of course, is confronting those fears. So go back and look at the list, or you can rewind this and listen again, of the different fears: fear of intimacy, fear of being hurt, those type of things, and ask yourself which one really had an emotional charge, which felt like it jumped out at you and you're like, well, that really hits home. That really hits a sore spot for me. And pick one of those. You can have more than one. Of course, we usually have more than one, but just pick the one that just feels like, oh, this really hits a sore spot. And we're going to work with that one. So say it is the fear of intimacy. Or actually, let's go with the one, fear of being seen, because that one's actually really common. Fear of really being seen. And I want us to confront that fear, and not in an aggressive way, not in a way where you're like, I'm going to destroy this thought. We can't do that. We have these fears, and the best thing to do is to really start inquiring and being self-reflective. And this is all ways of being self-aware, and it gives you power. It gives that part of you the chance to speak, the fear to tell you what it is trying to say and why it's so afraid and why it's such a charge for you. So confronting the fear is just saying, okay, we're going to take it to the next level or the end result by asking a simple question. Then what? Okay, so say, I'm afraid of being seen. The next or first question would be, and then what? Okay, so I'm afraid of being seen. So then what happens? And maybe the next layer is, well, because I'm afraid of being seen, I don't act like myself, and I tend to take on a persona, or I try to act the way I think the guy wants me to act. Okay, and that's the fear speaking to you. So doing this on your own, you're going to come up with whatever is going to come up for you. So you can follow along with what I'm saying, but I want you to figure out, what is your heart saying and what is your fear trying to tell you? And so we're saying, okay, well, I'm going to act inauthentically, or I'm going to try to, put on a false front or something that I think that people want to see. And just kind of dive into that feeling. How does that feel? And so the question is, okay, then what? So you're acting inauthentically on dates, and then what happens? Well, since I'm not really being myself, I'm kind of attracting relationships or dating guys under, it's not a real connection. So I don't feel connected to that person, or they don't feel connected to me. And so you take it to the next level and you say, okay, well, you don't feel connected, or they don't feel connected to you. Something's missing. And then what happens? Well, they break up with me. They don't want to see me anymore, or they ghost me. Or the other way around could be, I just don't feel a spark. I don't feel a connection with this person. And so I don't see them anymore. I break up with them, or I ghost them. There's no judgment about what you're doing or what's happening here. You're just trying to allow these experiences to unravel from your body, to come out of the hiding and show itself and explain itself to you, so that you can really see yourself and witness yourself in a loving way, so that you can start to have less of a charge around these fears, that you can move forward even with the fears still being there. They're just a very quiet backdrop in the background. They're not something that is making you do things, and they're not the fears that are actually dictating your experiences or actions that you're going to take. You have control. You are taking charge of your experience by allowing these fears to unravel, to release, to be seen, and to let go and be like, wow, I really, really understand myself on a very deep and profound level right now. So I can actually get out there and move towards what I want instead of letting those fears take over. So you get the idea around just going through the then what happens until it feels like it's really at the end stage. So maybe it's like, I just, end up alone. I feel unlovable. So you kind of hit the bottom of it. And the turnaround is the important piece here. So you can then introduce a new idea, or what I call a new intention. And if it feels still emotionally charged, you can do something like tapping to release that emotion, that you can really start tapping on those specific fears and the specific kind of trajectory and path that you've laid out, that you now understand. And tap on those different parts of the emotion and the fear so that you feel a release, you feel a space within you. And then when you feel like you've had a shift, so maybe you've released some tears, or you feel like you've had a big aha moment, or something feels different, then you can move into the next stage, which is the turnaround. So based on the fear, you've had this fear of intimacy, and you really have gotten to know it and just done a deep dive into this fear and released a lot of the charge around it. So what do you want your experience to be instead? What is your new intention? For example, you can say, well, I intend to express my true self, to be myself completely and fully when I'm dating. And of course, you want to be doing that in all areas of your life, but we're focusing on the dating right now, and sort of one thing at a time. So you can say, I intend to be myself more and more with every date or something like that. So it's like a nice unfolding. It's not all of a sudden I'm going to be myself and like, wow, it's difficult. That's probably too much pressure on yourself. You want to be saying, well, I'm going to get better and better at this as I hone my skills and learn how to be myself. So I intend to be more and more of myself on every date as I continue this love and dating journey. So that's a beautiful new intention. And that's how you can work with the fears and do this exercise. And you can go through, another one that feels like a big charge to you and just keep going through that list until you have your intentions and your turnaround. Now I want to focus on those 3 habits, the 3 most common habits I see that are stopping you from finding your Mr. Right and from having the love you deserve and desire. And these are going to be sounding very familiar to you probably. And again, these are things that I have also had to overcome, and I'm still a work in progress around a lot of these. First one is overthinking. Overthinking is when you allow your unleashed thoughts to make all the decisions for you. Overthinking is when you're only in your head and you're not allowing your heart, your gut, your intuition to guide you. Some examples are becoming hyper-focused or observant on all the minuscule details of your date. So you're thinking about, what does that facial expression mean? Why did they use that emoji? Why did they take so long to respond to that text? And just really overthinking. You're just constantly in your head. You need to give your heart and your gut a chance, or your intuition, to tell you what's what, because they're the ones with the wisdom, not your mind. Your mind, of course you need to use your mind to do logical things and to, plan your dates and do all that stuff. But it's not really the guiding force you need to be using. You need to be in your heart more and getting to know your body and your intuition. So overthinking is the exact opposite of that. It's allowing your mind to have total control. And if you've done any kind of personal development work whatsoever, you know that the mind is just an unhinged thing. It's not loyal to any thoughts. It is just back and forth like a ping pong game. It's like not going to be loyal to one thing or the other. It just constantly flip-flops all over the place. The mind, and your thoughts tells a lot of lies. And so this sounds harsh, but you need to know that your mind is just a thing that goes around and around in circles. And it's just, you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are just random things that are floating around, and they're based on your past experiences, based on things you might be picking up on from social media. It's just all of these random things that are kind of influencing you. But it's not you. You're not your mind. You're your true self. You have a heart's desire. You have this inner wisdom. You've got an inner voice of what I call your intuition that is guiding you towards what you want. So what would you rather listen to? Your mind that's constantly going all over the, basically up and down and all over the place? Or do you want to be listening to your intuition and your heart that is going to lead you straight to what you want? So overthinking is a big one. I want you to really be aware of yourself. And the best way to know that you're overthinking is when you start feeling totally uncentered, anxious, feeling really like not knowing, self-doubt, confusion, just being all over the place. Should I do this or should I do that? I don't know what to do. I don't know how I feel. Should I, not talk to this guy, or should I go on a date? What should I do? And you're all over the place because the thoughts are all over the place. So if you feel like you cannot get a centered, feeling or a grounded, confident point of view or make a decision, you are definitely overthinking. All right, the second one is overanalyzing. So this is a close cousin to overthinking. Overanalyzing is when you run off with those unhinged thoughts and start making up all kinds of stories and scenarios and like three-ring circus acts about what's going on with your date or your love life. Again, you take those facial expressions and those thoughts like, I wonder what he's thinking or what he's feeling, or the random emoji, and you make up this elaborate what if story of epic proportions. Like, he's probably, making these kind of facial expressions because he's thinking that I'm so boring and he doesn't even like me. And no one's ever liked me, and I've always had a hard time just being interesting to people, and it just compounds, and you start analyzing, well, he's probably just going to let me down easy, or what if he, takes me on 3 dates and then says, this is a total waste of my time. And you're literally thinking about this stuff and analyzing it right into a huge story when you have no idea what the guy is thinking. You have no idea what he's feeling. You're not communicating it or asking questions about him. You're just going off, on this tangent in your mind. That is overanalyzing. And it leads you to feel frozen again, like, analysis paralysis. It's like, I can't decide what to do in any given moment because I'm so twisted around in so many different directions of the story that, overthinking, the analyzing the scenario to the nth degree, and you have no idea. You've completely drowned out your intuition. You've drowned out your heart, again, the wisdom that's coming through at any given moment. And you're closer to figuring out whether this person is right for you or whether you even actually like them. So overanalyzing is a big one too. This third one is a very nuanced, important piece that I don't want you to, if you walk away with anything today, please think about this. Overemphasis on the other person. So what is he thinking about me? How does he feel about me? How does he really feel? Why does he do this or do that? And doing like a deep dive diagnosis of his mental state based on all your observations. And this will take you out of your body. And it uses your empathetic abilities. So if you're an empath and someone who's able to pick up on emotions and read the room in that sense, you're using those abilities in a way that's very self-destructive. Instead of being keenly aware of your own experiences, you become an expert on the guy in front of you. And it's not your fault. You've been trained to do this in society as a woman to, anticipate how you should respond based on what you pick up on. And you're meant to scan others to see how they're doing, how you can help them, how you can make things easier, how you can, smooth things over. All of these things are deeply ingrained in you as a woman. But it can be turned around because I want you to think about all the times you have placed a huge emphasis on the guy in front of you, on how he's feeling, how he feels about you, what he's going to do, what you think he thinks. Okay, instead of how do I feel? How do I feel around this guy? Do I like him? Is it worthwhile for me to go on another date? These are the things you need to do. Turn that empathy around on yourself. Tune into yourself. Tune into your heart. Tune into your body. What is my body feeling and doing and sensing right now? Not your mind, not the stories you can make up about all of the things or diagnosing him or whatever it is. And again, I've done this a million times and I know what it's like. And it's just a very distressing kind of way to live and the way to date. It's very anxiety provoking. It causes a lot of self-doubt. You never know what you're doing in your dating life. And if you don't know how you're feeling and experiencing things, Of course, this is how you get stuck in, being connected to an unavailable guy and all of a sudden ending up, 10 months down the road, like, wow, I'm dating a guy who's totally unavailable, and having it be a light bulb that far into it. And then, of course, there's those fears of getting trapped and everything because you're in this sort of pattern with these habits and the things that you're doing that is taking you in the exact opposite direction of where you want to be. So this is why it's so important to look at, what are my fears? What am I doing with these fears? Like, what are my fears trying to tell me? And doing the exercise that we went through today. And what are these, am I overthinking? Am I overanalyzing? Do I have a huge overemphasis on the guy in front of me instead of me and my heart, my needs? And then doing the turnaround. The turnaround is simple, but it's life-changing. Turn that back onto yourself. How do I feel? How is my body feeling? Putting your hand on your heart. Doing a tune-in when you get home from a date. Never deciding, never having to be forced into any kind of decision whatsoever after a date, and just saying, I've had a really good time and I'm going to go home and I'm just going to, however you want to word it, just say, give me a couple days, or I really enjoyed myself, or whatever wording you want to use, and then say, let's keep in touch. But if you feel right away that you're tuning into a lot of anxiety, a lot of feelings of like, this doesn't feel right, then I want you to honor that and say, I think I'm just going to keep looking, and good luck on your search. And thank you so much for spending this time with me. That can be also a way that you respond at the end of the date. But I want you to be asking yourself, how am I feeling? What am I experiencing? And those are the easiest turnarounds. And then pairing that with your new intentions of, I intend to be myself, or I intend to go in with an open heart and to attempt to open my heart more and more as I date, or whatever your intention is. These are very, very powerful ways to overcome your fears and habits that are stopping you from having a beautiful, amazing, harmonious and connected relationship with Mr. Right. And I hope this has been helpful for you and has allowed you to really tune into yourself and get to know yourself in a better way, in a deeper and more connected way. And I hope you join me next week, because we're going to do a 2-part series on first date do's and don'ts. And I'm super excited for that. So I'll see you next week. And remember, love is closer than you think.